Listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dom, today is Kenosha 2-year anniversary Tuesday. Wow. The 2-year anniversary of lots of civil strife. Jacob Black, he got shot in the back multiple times by local police. And obviously there were problems that stem from there, Dom. And we're going to talk about it. You're going to, fact check Rojo. U.S. Senator Ron Johnson is out there telling lies today. Kind of like your buddy CJ did yesterday.
Well, we like the facts around here, even if they go with us or against us, what our sensibilities might be. Facts are facts. And yes, you got to push back. You got to identify what they are, when they are. And so we can contradict and prove that what some people say, some Republicans, like some callers like CJ, some senators like Trump, and some political parties like the GOP, how they claim Governor Evers reacted in real time. We will get into that.
You said Trump was a senator. I think you meant Rojo, but
I'm sorry, Rojo. Yes, thank you.
Talked about Trump. So the latest, Dom, and we'll get there in just a minute, but Trump's defense is to confess? These are the best and the brightest lawyers this man can find? He confessed in a court filing. He effectively confessed to the crime. I'll tell you all about it. We'll come back. Also, Tony Evers, good news, everybody. We're all getting tax cuts. Well, Tony proposes that we all get tax cuts. Big surplus running here in the state of Wisconsin.
Thank you, Tony.
Do you think the Republicans will see it Tony's way and give us all tax cuts? I thought they were all down for tax cuts, unless it's a midterm election year, in which case, they're going to be very scarce with the tax cuts. I bet they gavel in, gavel out. No tax cuts for you, Salvia.
Come on. Republicans, they cannot help themselves. They love some tax cuts. But if they don't go to the wealthy, you're right, they may be, less than eager to get that signed up and give Governor Evers a win before the primary or before the elections. That's how that happens. But is Evers playing politics by doing this now? I mean, he could have done it months ago, right? So it goes all the way around.
It does. We got Dr. Harvey Kaye coming round to talk a little politics at the bottom of this hour at 4:30. But Dom, let's get back to Trump. The headline at the Washington Post. Now, this is, a column. This is not a factual headline. But Trump's risk of indictment for his document snatch just skyrocketed. Oh, yeah, it's going up. The percentages, Dom, the betting line, it's going up.
Yeah.
Jennifer Rubin reports at the Post. When U.S. Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhardt initially indicated he was disposed to unsealing the affidavit accompanying the search warrant executed at former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home, former prosecutors and legal experts were surprised, to put it mildly. Now it appears we are unlikely to see much, if anything, from the affidavit, for good reason. On Monday, Reinhardt issued a ruling noting, and this is a quote from the ruling, one of the statutes for which I found probable cause prohibits obstructing an investigation. Also, as some of the media interveners have reported, there have been increased threats against FBI personnel since the search. Now, Rubin's back to writing. He therefore found that, given the public notoriety and controversy about this search, it is likely that even witnesses who are not expressly named in the affidavit would be quickly and broadly identified over social media and other communication channels, which could lead to them being harassed and intimidated. In other words, Rubin writes, the MAGA campaign of incitement against law enforcement should weigh heavily against disclosure. Blue Lives Matter? thin blue line.
Not if it's Trump, it doesn't matter. I mean, they proved that, and they continue to live that philosophy.
Dominic Reinhardt continued, again, I quote, the affidavit discloses the sources and methods used by the government in its ongoing investigation. I agree with the government that the affidavit contains, among other critically important and detailed investigative facts, highly sensitive information about witnesses, probably Jared, including witnesses interviewed by the government, specific investigative techniques, and information required by law to be kept under seal. Got to seal it, really, for Trump's own protection. And of course, the witnesses that MAGA world will hang like they would Mike Pence. Reinhardt therefore concluded, government has a compelling reason not to publicize that information at this time. Reinhardt agreed to consider whether a redacted affidavit might be released, but his opinion strongly suggests that nothing significant would be revealed. And while Trump has filed a preposterous lawsuit seeking to freeze on the examination of the recovered documents, he is unlikely to shift attention from this blockbuster revelation from the New York Times. You want to do the blockbuster now? Bring the blockbuster.
I will do
fella.
it. Here's the blockbuster revelation from the New York Times.
You're still renting movies at Blockbuster, but go ahead.
In total, the government has recovered more than 300 documents with classified markings from Mr. Trump since he left office. Multiple people briefed on the matter said. That first batch of documents returned in January, another set provided by Mr. Trump's aides to the Justice Department in June, and then the material seized by the FBI in the search this month. Now, Rubin goes back to her writing. The sheer number of documents previously recovered and their sources from the CIA, FBI, and the NSA raises the stakes considerably for Trump, undercutting his followers' frivolous excuses and ludicrous accusations of an FBI plot to persecute him. Even more incriminating, the Times reports, Mr. Trump went through the boxes himself in late 2021, meaning he was clearly aware of the contents and could view the classification markings. If the FBI and Justice Department are looking for evidence of Trump's direct knowledge of the materials and willful refusal to return all of them, this would fit the bill. If, contrary to what Trump's counsel said, the government did not previously get back all sensitive materials, the only logical conclusion would be that Trump refused to part with the documents he falsely told aides were mine. This might be the rare case when Trump lacks even a plausible deniability, of course, the ability to shift blame to his attorney. If the facts are as damning as they appear, Rubin writes, Trump's risk of indictment is quite high. After the evidence is gathered, Attorney General Merrick Garland will need to decide whether to pursue an indictment from the grand jury. With a discrete set of facts that a jury can easily comprehend, powerful evidence of Trump's willfulness, and the clear interest in protecting the nation's secrets, Garland will have every incentive to proceed and surely not wait until the exponentially more complicated January 6th investigation concludes, Jennifer Rubin writes today. And I would add to that, just a few hours ago, Reuters is reporting that the U.S. National Archives discovered more than 700 pages of classified documents at Trump's Florida home, in addition to the material seized this month by the FBI, according to that very same letter provided by Trump's representative to the National Archives, John Solomon, the disgraced former Hill contributor, that guy.
No, it goes on Hannity quite a bit. They like him over on Righty Whitey Talk Radio. Dom, here's a little bit more on the motion filed by the Trump legal team. What a fine team they are. Former President Donald Trump and his legal team have filed a motion asking a federal judge to pause the FBI's review of the alleged classified documents taken from the Mar-a-Lago resort, so a neutral special master can be appointed to inspect them. The motion was included in a federal lawsuit filed by Trump targeting the FBI's justification for the August 8th raid. According to reports, Trump's more than 300 classified documents at his Palm Beach resort that he allegedly took from the White House at the end of his tenure. But in new developments today, the judge overseeing the case gave Trump and his legal team until Friday to give more specifics as to why they think their motion should be granted.
They need to take their homework back and redo it?
Judge Eileen Cannon seemed skeptical about Trump's lawsuit over the search of Mar-a-Lago. including what exactly he's trying to do and why he filed a separate case instead of just asking Judge Bruce Reinhardt to address his grievances in the existing matter, according to New York Times reporter Charlie Savage. The judge assigned to Trump's civil complaint is basically telling them they need to do better. As CBS News' Steve Portney pointed out, the judge wants Trump's legal team to provide the asserted basis for the exercise of this court's jurisdiction, the precise relief sought, including any request for injunctive relief, and the effect, if any, of the proceeding before magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhardt. This order is hilarious, added David French of the Dispatch. Any decent litigator would read it and shudder. Basically, the judge is saying to the Trump team, do your freaking job. Translation, Trump's motion is a mess, and the judge needs them to spell out exactly what they were asking for and why they think they're entitled to that relief, tweeted by Rinaldo Mariotto, a former federal prosecutor. You got to do better, Dom.
You got to do it over. Nope, I can't accept this. You have to do it over. Please bring it back, typed and double spaced. Your crayons don't work. What an embarrassment. So, Crudy, I mean, all this going on, I got to ask you, does it look like, does it feel like, do you get the sense that perhaps these are more than mere paper crimes?
No, it's still
these are still paper crimes to you.
Relative to a coup against the government, a coup against democracy, a coup against the vice presidency, a coup against the peaceful transfer of power. That is all I want history to judge.
If these are the most important, most sensitive documents on earth as it pertains to the United States and our national security, these are the top 300 documents. You think that's just a paper crime? You don't think there's anything more than that?
They are literally pieces of paper. It is a paper crime, and that is how
so is money pieces of paper.
Let me, if I could, that is how it will be described by history and by the Trump supportive. So if you want to hang him high, if you think he's guilty, charge the crime, the real crime, the crime against history, against democracy, and let's leave the stolen documents down at Mar-a-Lago out of it, because you're never going to convince the faithful, the cult, that is a legitimate crime. I'm just saying. More
You're
devil.
wrong. You've never been more wrong. I'm shocked, Crudy.
They used many bad words, and they admitted it in the hearing.
Believe me, it is absolutely 150% your.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
But Dom, we've been following a couple of big stories this week. Truck convoy leader has no idea where he is and is driving in circles around I-495. He didn't know precisely where he was going anyways or where he was at the time. Apparently, he put the convoy back on the road, headed back up north, and he's back in Scranton. So
I totally would have protested this tyranny, but damn, the traffic was so bad.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. They can help save lives by not having play dates. That's right. By replacing get-togethers with virtual play dates and video chats, they can help slow the evil spread of germs. And if your superheroes do go outside, make sure they continue their superhero wing by staying 6 feet away from others to protect everyone in America land. Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open before Professor Harvey Kaye joins us at the bottom of the hour at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, it's not that I don't think we should take these crimes seriously. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. It's not that your buddy Crudy doesn't care.
Oh, no, of course. I get that. I think, but I'm sorry, finish your thought. I don't want to interrupt.
I'm saying in the terms of history, in the crimes that this man is guilty of, the stealing of super classified documents, probably one of his lesser sins. I'm just saying, to my perception, any other human being should go to jail for this, but Trump will not, to my opinion, go to jail for quote unquote paperwork crimes. And if he did, I would fully expect a violent reaction from the Trumpists. And I'm not saying I encourage that. I'm not rooting for it. I'm just saying that is how they would react. They would see this.
They're already reacting that way, right? I mean, we've seen the insurrection, we've seen the attack on the FBI, we've seen how the Trumpsters have reacted. Hell, we got a conviction in Michigan today for the trying to kidnap and blow up a bridge. No, I get it, but these are the Trumpsters we're talking about. So let me address what your concern is. That concern is going to be there regardless of what the particular crime, and all of them together, they probably will be charged if they can find evidence for it. So they're going to get violent again, regardless if it's the top secret stealing documents, if it's the insurrection and the seditious conspiracy, if it's the civil action against Trump organization, if it's criminal fraud in the state of New York, if it's the Georgia, if you can only find me 11,780 votes phone call, the Trumpster reaction is going to be consistent. They're going to be violent. That's what they do.
It's a lot easier to present. I mean, seriously, you got Donald Trump claiming, I tweeted out, I declassified everything. Even though Mark Meadows, his former chief of staff, has said in sworn testimony, of course, you can't declassify every document via tweet. Okay, but that will be his defense. That will be his claim, right? He'll be out there lying. It
doesn't matter. I mean, he's got if he gets in front of a jury, right? I mean, the jury's going to make that determination, and he can say whatever the hell he wants. You know what he hasn't done in any of that information released by Solomon? There was no indication that anything was declassified, even if that mattered. So, I mean, Trump's gonna lie, and his backers are gonna be violent. We can just take those as assumptions, man. So we can't make determinations, or certainly the Department of Justice should not make determinations. And if you believe what we just read on Rubin, I'm kind of with her on this. This is pretty easy. Here's the stuff no one's supposed to have. Here's the stuff that Trump took. Here's all the efforts we went through to get it back. Here's how he went through it personally, shifted some stuff into some other box, and stuck it in a briefcase or in a container in his office closet, and then claimed that they gave everything back. That's pretty easy, man. And I think to that point, that's a lot less convoluted than the incitement of the riot activity that's still being investigated.
Well, if you accompany it with the, evidence, let's say, because I would say if you charge the man, and I think he's merited being charged with incitement against the United States government, seditious conspiracy, something of the sort. I think there are violent charges. To me, this feels like, it's Bonnie and Clyde robbing the bank, and you're charging them with the paperwork they stole in the teller bag. What about the robbing the bank and shooting the teller? Let's deal with the crimes that are tangible and violent. And we all as a nation saw it happen before our very eyes. And I have no doubt the man stole paperwork. I have no doubt. But they're going to play it like it's Hillary's emails, right? Oh, they didn't lock up Hillary. But you know what? Hillary never perpetrated a coup against the U.S. government, as far as I can tell. So Donald Trump's sort of unique, unprecedented in that regard. And that is the sort of thing that inspires the violence. It's the willingness of the man to inspire the violence. So my only point is, if you're going to allow him to inspire violence, if you're going to charge this man, and that's going to result in violence against the U.S., against the people, lone wolves, crazy bastards, if that's all going to happen, let's not make it over the paperwork trial. Let's make it over the indictment against the coup against the
You charge the crime you're ready to charge when you're ready to charge it. And there's lots of crimes that are being investigated that Donald Trump is involved with. And I certainly don't think a guy like Merrick Garland is going to then decide, well, they might get really violent if we charge with this one, they'll be less violent if we charge this, and then so we'll charge this. I don't think that's a logical line of thinking for an independent Department of Justice, Crudy.
Set aside the probable violence no matter what the indictment is.
Thank you. Yes,
Let's set aside the violence. Let's set aside the caution the Attorney General might have. Let's set aside the fact the guy probably stole all this documented paperwork to threaten the U.S. government. If you indict me, I'm turning this stuff over to a foreign power. That's the threat. That's why he stole this stuff.
You think trying to blackmail this country is you think you can get away with that? I mean that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. How do you blackmail an entire country? Just one more thing here, Curtis.
You take enough secrets out of the White House.
Well, see, then that becomes a big crime, dude. I mean that becomes a serious crime. It doesn't matter if it's paper or if it's on a flash drive or if it's in the cloud. And how Trump's had a year and a half to disseminate this stuff, to copy it, to take pictures, and God knows do what with it. We don't know what they did with it. We also know from Haberman's reporting yesterday that they're now asking, the DOJ is asking for more surveillance footage. So there's more to come from that. But let me just throw out there the conclusion of a political piece from today. It was reported earlier this month that some of the documents in Trump's possession related to nuclear weapons and special access program materials. At the time, Trump GOP allies held their fire until they could hear directly from the National Archives. At least one Republican lawmaker noted that this specific scenario would be problematic. Here's what Rep. Chris Stewart, a Republican from Ohio, a member of the House Intelligence Committee, had to say. I mean, if he had actual special access programs, do you know how extraordinarily sensitive that is? That's very, very sensitive. If that were actually in his residence, that would be a problem, said the Republican House Committee member, Chris Stewart. It's problematic, and it's not getting better for him on this front. I think this is a real easy slam dunk. He's got the docs. They're in his possession. He's not supposed to have them. They've had documented conversations for what, a year and a half?
Come on, man. I've been watching this guy break laws in public plain view. I mean, why did he fire Comey? Really? He said it to Lester Holt on NBC. Come back. Fine guest Harvey Kaye.
Stay informed with progressive news and talk on Double Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, Waunakee's choice for essential radio.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
This is Chad Spate.
Hey, Harvey, can you hear me?
I can, indeed.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. We are back in 3.5 minutes.
Okay. I got 3.5 minutes, you mean? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Houses work so that your home improvement project actually improves your home. And we love what we do. To learn more, go to chadsdesignbuild.com. And thank you, Madison, for 30 great years.
Listen to the Empowered Caregiver Show each Saturday and Sunday morning at 8 a.m. with hosts Liza Hellenbrand and Kristen Voss.
Right here on Double Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580.
I'm Ben Thomas with an AP News Minute. Flag Day in Ukraine, where fears are mounting that Russia may mark tomorrow's Independence Day, the 6-month point in its invasion, by intensifying attacks. U.S. officials say a new aid package will be announced tomorrow, roughly $3 billion to train and equip Ukrainian forces.
We got hit pretty hard, and we got hit in a historic way.
Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson in audio from WFAA on the flooding the city has seen. Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed an emergency declaration today. In Michigan, a jury has convicted 2 men of conspiring to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. The FBI's David Porter.
The defendants in this case believe that their anti-government views justified violence. Today's verdict is a clear example that they were wrong.
On Wall Street, stocks closed lower, but the losses were small. The Dow lost 0.5%, the S&P and the NASDAQ less. And Tesla is splitting its stock 3-for-1. I'm Ben.
We tried Dynovite nutritional supplement, and after a couple of weeks, we noticed a big difference. Our little Gizmo's coat was shinier, and there was a lot less scratching and shedding.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynovite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynovite.
Backyard grill-outs are better this summer with the Omaha Steaks All-American Assortment. Visit omahasteaks.com, enter Sizzle in the search bar, and fill your freezer with 16 mouth-watering entrees like butcher's cut filet mignons, pork chops, boneless chicken breasts, and more. Plus, 8 ultra-juicy Omaha Steaks burgers free. Go to omahasteaks.com, type Sizzle into the search bar for a special price on the All-American Assortment, and get 8 Omaha Steaks burgers free. That's omahasteaks.com, keyword.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Matner with your headlines. A change in messaging for Wisconsin GOP gubernatorial candidate Tim Michels. Initially, the businessman said he wasn't accepting donations from any individual for more than $500 and that his campaign would be largely self-funded. Now, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reporting that on the night of the August 9th primary, Michels' campaign put out a statement declaring victory and announcing the campaign is now accepting donations of up to $20,000 per person. A Democratic Party official accuses Michels of misleading voters. The Michels campaign says Evers and his backers have committed millions to the general election. Not the case in the primary, where Michels swamped his opponents by self-financing. A Michels spokesperson says, quote, "We aren't going to simply lay down in the fight to replace him," unquote. Michels facing Democratic Governor Tony Evers in the November general election. Partly cloudy today, high 82, clear tonight, low 61. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM, WTTN, 1580 AM.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about, The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the Tuesday edition. We welcome back a fine guest, Dr. Harvey Kaye, Professor Emeritus, University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, one of my favorite Packer fans. Welcome back, Harvey.
Thank you. And I'm so glad you said it was Tuesday. I was starting to think it was Wednesday today.
Maria, I often lose track of the days. I've got it up above my head. We actually have the day on the clock so I can keep it straight.
Good.
It is Tuesday, right?
Yeah, I think.
Well,
Now that you mentioned it, yeah. No, I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, man, good to see you.
Nice.
So, Harvey, I got to ask you, most importantly, what do you think the Packers' chances of winning the Super Bowl this year are?
You know what? A few weeks ago, I told, I'm going to name drop. I told my friend Bill Moyers that he said to me, so what do you think of the Packers' chances for the Super Bowl? And I said, well, I think we'll have a fun season. I can't guarantee anything. However, I think I like these young guys. I like the spirit on the team. I know that Rodgers was complaining, but I don't know. Maybe it's because football's here now and I'm feeling really good about it. So I think there's a good chance. I really do.
And Harvey, do you agree with me that the Bears still suck? We do play out on WCPT 820 AM, so consider your answer.
I will tell you, my wife has a theory. She watches sports avidly, and she said it's always good when a team picks up a player from an antagonist team. And I'm forgetting now who it is, but we have somebody from the Bears now, correct? Who am I talking about?
Got to see the final roster before I believe.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I'm thinking if that's the case, because what it is she says those folks, they play for revenge. And I figure, if you got a good spirited team and you got one guy playing for revenge, you're okay.
All right, man. Well, let's talk about playing for a little revenge here in the great state of Wisconsin. Harvey, have you been watching the political campaigns unwind? I mean, we got a gubernatorial race and they kind of went for blood. They took out Becky Clayfish. They trumped her ass. And this woman who had been running for governor for 4, 8, 12 years, effectively. I mean, her whole adult life, Rebecca Clayfish, had been positioning herself for this time in history. And then this outsider flies in from Connecticut, drops $50 million and beats her. A, it's got to be crushing to her soul. I feel bad for you, Becky, kind of. And B, there will be no reconciliation between the party. You know what I mean? The
do.
Becky
Right.
Clayfish wing of this party is not exactly embracing the Tim Michaels Trump endorsing.
Oh, wait, has she endorsed Evers yet?
No, I haven't heard that.
Not Evers, not yet.
But I have not heard any sort of clear endorsement from Clayfish for Michaels.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you know, can you explain to me? I heard something. I don't want to say anything just yet. I heard something. Do you know why Trump endorsed Michaels and not Clayfish?
Because the elder Clayfish daughter went to homecoming with Justice Brian Hagedorn's son, and Rebecca Clayfish had tweeted out the photo, "Hey, Justice Hagedorn, these kids clean up nice." Something of that sort.
Exactly. I just heard it last week. I didn't realize that because I kept saying, why is this the case? And it's just nice to know that Trump really knows how to hate, and for really important reasons. I mean, come on, a prom or a date. I mean, that matters, and it's just really quite wonderful. In fact, it's kind of amazing that he didn't necessarily try to find her an alternate date at the least.
Well, he probably thought he'd be dating her in 10 years. He hoped for such a thing. My understanding, I just saw the face made by Evan. My understanding is a lot of bad blood. And the fact that the Michaels campaign was circulating the photos of the Clayfish daughter went a little beyond attacking the candidate. So there's some bad blood going on there. My understanding is there will be no reconciliation between the, who knows, maybe Rantham will come out and endorse Michaels, but I don't think you're going to see Clayfish do so.
I haven't found yet. What's the polling show regarding Evers and Michaels? Do you know?
Well, the polling shows currently Evers up by about 2, the Marquette University Law School.
Just two,
within the margin of error.
But Michaels says his gut tells him he's up 5 to 10 points because Republican voters lied to the pollsters, and therefore he's got a healthy lead over Tony. His gut tells him that, even though Mandela's up 7 on Ron Johnson in the same polling.
Yeah, this will be interesting because you often think about the top position having coattails, and I've even wondered to what extent the coattails might reverse. So candidates running for terms in the Assembly or the Senate at the United States, if there's any chance of that kind of uplift.
Well, if you look at the numbers in 2018, Harvey, and it's an interesting question you pose, Tammy Baldwin, a very progressive lesbian, candidate, doesn't seem like the perfect fit for the state of Wisconsin in this very purple state.
Yeah.
But Tammy Baldwin crushed Dominic's girl, Leah Vukmer. I like to call her Nurse Ratchet, but Nurse Ratchet got beat by about 100,000+ votes. But Tony Evers only beat Scott Walker on the very same ballot and the very same day by about 31,000 votes. So the strangest thing about the 2018 election is there was 100,000 Scott Walker voters that also voted for Tammy Baldwin.
That's fascinating. I did not realize that. That is, I hadn't thought of that.
I cannot see that playing out again in this race. Although, theoretically, if you've got Mandela Barnes and he's the U.S. Senate candidate, obviously the same scenario of the Senate race being somewhat independent of the chief executive race here in the state of Wisconsin. But if Mandela's up 7 and Tony's in the margin of error, theoretically, Mandela could win the Senate race and we could have a Governor Michaels on the same ballot.
You know what? You just gave me an upset stomach.
Thanks, Crudy. He does it to me all the time, Harvey.
Oh my God. Seriously speaking, I cannot believe we have come to this from the Republican Party. I should be able to believe it because Walker was so abysmal, truly abysmal. But this guy Michael seems to be, if it's possible, a step beyond even Walker. Okay. It's just astonishing to me. And, people I remember in some elections previously, people talked about leaving the United States for Canada if Trump gets elected. Seriously speaking, I love the state of Wisconsin, but if we ended up with a Governor Michaels and this Republican controlled legislature, there's good reason to think about I don't know, moving to Minnesota even. God, you know.
But we've already,
and I live in Green Bay where the Packers are, so it would mean really a smack in the face that would just, oh God.
You and my wife, Harvey, making these threats if there's a Governor Michaels. And I would say, God forbid, I don't want to see it happen, but God forbid that were to happen. We've already lived through that for 8 years. And I got a daughter who's 27 living on the West Coast. And I'm not clear if she wants to move home. You know what I mean? You think at some point kids are going to move home. They're going to want to raise kids here in the upper Midwest. Like they grew up. And I am less convinced in a state where she would have no abortion rights, in a state where Republican governance could take us back to 1849. Right. I don't know that my daughter would want to live in a state like that, or my wife, but my fear is if all the good people move out of the state of Wisconsin, this state becomes further and further red, and my once beloved Wisconsin descends into the governance of Tim Michels and Robin Voss.
Yeah, so you're making me feel guilty for even considering the possibility.
Come on, man, this is our state. I'm not going to leave it just because some jackasses get elected. We stay and we fight, Harvey. But I want to get Harvey Kaye, our fine guest. I want to get your thoughts historically. You brought up, I can't believe we're dealing with the GOP, the Republican Party, which is now the mega party. Curdy drugged me to the last Trump rally in Waukesha, Harvey, and we heard Tim Michels say, the Republican Party was reborn in Trump Tower in 2016, right? And it made me think, well, first they murdered the original Republican Party. Now this is the mega party. But now we see how this continues to evolve, and they continue to, defend this president as it gets worse and worse and worse for him. They're no longer the party of law and order, as Curdy mentioned with the abortion stuff. They want to take us back to the 1800s, before women even had the right to vote and to determine for themselves what should happen to their body. Harvey, I mean, historically speaking, do you see this party continuing, or do you see it perhaps fading away and something else coming in?
Fading away, it's hard to see because these folks are so committed. Okay, we used to call them for a while, a few years ago, like a cult, but that was being nice. Actually, that was being nice because really, we're talking about outright neo-fascism in many a case. Okay, Curdy didn't even mention the fact that Michels is prepared to sell AR-15s to teenagers. We'll have this image of that young, that kid who came up from Illinois and started shooting people and killing people in southeastern Wisconsin. You can imagine all of a sudden kids who are just utterly fed up with the way things are for the future of a generation, just letting loose. Seriously speaking, this state would be all the scarier. Seriously speaking, consider the fact they've broken up the University of Wisconsin in many ways. It's not the university system it was. Okay, they've taken away the collective bargaining rights of public employees, and we were the first state to truly accord such rights to public employees, public workers. They've basically they're on the verge of truly banning a woman's right to choose, because right now, of course, we have an attorney general and a governor who said they won't apply the law that's on the books from the past. It's just a truly horrific kind of vision of what this state could become. Look, it's not like we've always been this politically innocent progressive state. We had Joe McCarthy after all. But Joe McCarthy, fortunately, was not the governor of Wisconsin. He was a U.S. senator. Okay, so seriously, I am afraid of what could happen, and I can't believe that this state will literally place in office Michels over Evers. Though I know that there are parts of this state that have no affection, no love, and really do despise the very word Democrat.
Let me ask you a question, Dr. Harvey Kaye, our fine guest. Harvey, I have spent a lot of time this summer driving the state of Wisconsin, listening to all the AM radio stations. You're in a different market than we are. I hear Milwaukee, I hear Madison, and I see the commercials for Mandela Barnes, and I see the commercials for Tony Evers, but I hear the ads for Ron Johnson and Tim Michels. This state is filthy with those ads all across the radio dial. I don't see the Democrats matching them on the talk radio, the country music, the airwaves. Harvey, I fear the same $15 million advertising buy that Michaels flew in and did over 90 days that helped him beat Rebecca Clayfish is going to be persuasive enough to help him win outstate by large enough margins. Dane County cannot possibly overvote enough to overcome margins outstate.
Yeah, no, seriously speaking, there's one ad in particular. I don't need to recount it very much, but it opens up as if it's an ad for Mandela Barnes, and then they flip the switch, and you come to realize that they're using it to really rile up the Republican base, right? It's Mandela Barnes, it's the squad from the Congress, and all of a sudden, it's Ron Johnson is going to save us from the socialists and their big spending. I mean, right? You know that one, I'm sure, and that one just angers me no end. But the question isn't about just those ads. The question is, where are the Democratic ads that will go for the jugular, period? Okay. Where are they? And that's what I want to see.
Or here on the radio. Harvey Kaye.
Or there on the radio. Yeah. Hey, get him going. You bet.
Harvey,
absolutely.
You got like 8 more minutes for us, buddy?
Sure, I'm with you. Misery loves company, right?
Okay. More Harvey Kaye, more misery, more company, and perhaps you as well on the phones. 844-967-2789.
Dad, I picked up your pills, made your lunch, and your laundry is done.
When you care for a loved one, you take care of everything. But are you taking care of yourself? Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Learning in person.
All right, everybody settle down. Find your place, please.
Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed.
Listen, get your books out. We're going to start here with chapter
Get the
3.
latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Warning, listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
We've mentioned, inflation is going to be an issue. Let me ask you this. What would you like to see Donald Trump do if you were here? What did you suggest Biden do to address the inflationary pressures we're facing right now?
Well, I can't tell you that because that would be something you could counter and defeat Trump with, or the Republican Party. So tell you.
You think Trump's taking strategy from you on talk radio, Lou?
I mean, you're no Kid Rock, Lou.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstad at the Monaco Brewing Company, and I am proud to introduce you to Choice, our new pink grapefruit flavored hard seltzer. Choice was made in collaboration with Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin, and 5% of the proceeds from every can goes to support them and their fight for reproductive freedom. Choice Hard Seltzer tastes great and comes in at only 105 calories per can. Go to our website, MonacoBrewingCompany.com, to find where you can buy Choice Hard Seltzer.
Social media? You've kept up with the times. If you can do that, you can definitely save for retirement. Go to aceyourretirement.org, and in just 3 minutes, you'll get free tips to help boost your retirement savings. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Think you know politics? Think again. Welcome to the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Be sure to check us out on the socials, on Twitter at Devil Radio, and of course on the Facebooks at the Devil's Advocates Radio.
Dominic, the finest of guests, we've got Dr. Harvey Kaye, Professor Emeritus, University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. And Harvey, you often come calling with a populist message. Do you think the Democrats ever hear it? I mean, I like the way Mandela Barnes is talking about the fact that, he knows the price of a gallon of milk. But I was out at the Trump rally and I did meet a guy in the line. And this guy told me he was a union iron worker. And he basically said that Republicans are becoming the party of the working stiff. And I said, Republican union? That doesn't seem to go together. You know, the Republicans are so anti-union, right to work. I mean, hell, even Michaels is running away from his own corporation's prior advocacy for unions. So, Harvey, are we lost without a galvanizing populist message as Democrats?
Yes. Yes. And you're right. It is the one thing that's been missing from the Democratic Party nationally and in the state of Wisconsin is that populist message. I mean, look, to be honest, I mean, I'm very glad we have a candidate like Mandela Barnes now, running for the U.S. Senate. But it is the case that there really was not the kind of campaign until now that Mandela Barnes could have run. I mean, look, people out in northern and western Wisconsin, farmers included, want to hear a message that tells them that their areas matter, their regions matter, that there's reason to believe that Democrats will respond to the need for investment, the increased wages, etc. But especially, I think it's imperative that the Democrats get out there, and we have time for this, that they get out there with ads that say, think about the last 30 years, 40 years. Think about the degree to which you have seen this go and this go and this go. And then you lay them all out in terms of living standards, the price of higher education, the quality of education, all of that. And ask yourself who is responsible, and then lay out the Walker years, okay, and the threat of something like that again. Let him even apologize. It's about time we become the party of working people, because you're right. Workers have moved away from the Democratic Party. I don't believe they're at all necessarily committed to Republicans, but they don't necessarily see reason to become Democrats with a capital D once again. That's what the Democrats have not been doing. Honestly, I don't even think I've seen an ad for Evers at all up here. And I can't tell you I watch a lot of, mainstream TV, but I don't think I've seen an Evers ad. I'm on YouTube a lot. I don't think I mean, it's flooded with Johnson ads and Michaels ads.
Yeah. Folks are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. That is Harvey Kaye. He is a professor emeritus at UWGB joining us. Harvey, it's always fun, man. What's your take on, the Republicans are certainly going to talk about policy. They're going to try to ignore the insurrection and the attempted coup on this country. And they're going to go after these, call them, culture war issues, right? Transgender, LGBT rights, gay marriage, all, that kind of Roe v. Wade. These are all the issues that they can think they can divide Americans on. How effective do you think that Republicans have been on those issues so far? And what do you think the Dems can do to, kind of push back on that and, negate the push that they have?
Honestly, the reason the Republicans have been so successful with the culture buttons, you might say, is because the Democrats gave up the economic populist message that made them the majority party. Okay. In other words, it's the fact that if the Democrats are no longer the populist party, the party of the people, then most working people are going to be independent minded. And if nobody is talking to their real material needs and aspirations, they'll respond to cultural kinds of things. It's like I think I once mentioned this here. Back in the 1970s, where all this began, the Republicans, in unison with big business, went after labor unions. Even more at that time than they went after anything like women's rights or the rights of people of color. Their first and primary target was labor unions. Now, when the Democrats failed to rise to the occasion and defend unions aggressively, I think especially of the likes of Jimmy Carter, what happened? Well, if you can't vote for your wages and you can't in solidarity fight for your wages, what you're going to do is you're going to vote for the guy who promises to lower your taxes, even if he'll lower the taxes of the rich more. In other words, you will defend your wallet in hopes you might get some tax money back, since you can't get improved wages. And keep in mind, the working class has not seen a rise in their real wages and standard of living since the 1970s. So if the Democrats are not going to fight in those terms, you'll vote for somebody who'll give you a tax, even if it's pennies, you'll vote just to get those pennies back. Okay. So what about this election run? Well, I actually have not seen cultural issues as the thing Republicans are using. They're using the Johnson ads are all about inflation, spending and inflation. And the Democrats have got to respond by moving the subject back to, these are the kinds of things that working people need. These are the kinds of things we intend to pursue. Okay, period. I think I've spoken before here about an economic bill of rights, guaranteed jobs with living wages. Okay, healthcare. I mean, these are the kinds of questions that have been on the agenda here in Wisconsin for years, but have been pushed aside as a consequence of the Walker years.
Harvey, most recently, threats to democracy have overtaken cost of living as the voters' top issue for this country. Do you think that's one that the Democrats should be going for the jugular on, as you expressed?
Absolutely. Look, not 40 years ago, sorry. Back in 2017, when Trump won the presidency, I wrote a piece. Basically, it was about what I called creeping authoritarianism, that beginning in the late 1970s, the Republicans and big business declared war on the democratic achievements of the 1930s and the 1960s. And that war has been pursued for 45 years now. And unfortunately, the Democrats, led by Clinton, originally Carter, went along with that war, you might say, on working people's democratic rights. Look, Democrats should go after that. They should play over and over again the January 6th tape and say, these are the folks who believe that this is how we operate a democracy. This is Wisconsin. This is a great state of Wisconsin. And all the rights that we've won need to be restored. And the Democrats need to make sure that they identify with the redemption and renewal and enhancement of democracy. And that includes industrial democracy, the right of workers to organize and bargain collectively.
I got one last question for you, Dr. Harvey Kaye. Yes or no answer. Should Aaron Rodgers play in the preseason against the Chiefs?
This Friday night against the Chiefs, here's the thing. Maybe love wants revenge. How's that?
I like it. Dr. Harvey Kaye, thank you so much for joining us. Come back
Thank
with
you.
us. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates is next.
Thanks, Harvey.
But I cannot emphasize that there must be no violence.
Oh, we're gonna go get a weapon, everybody!
Everybody's doing it.
This local musical interlude is brought to you by Max Inc. Radio, VO5.
Let's do it on the dance floor. Let's do it how we can. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Listen to Max Inc. Radio every Saturday and Sunday, 6 p.m. to midnight. Download the podcast at maxincradio.com. We are local music.
Jimmy, that last band told me they drove all the way to Beloit for gummies.
Do they know they can get gummies right here in Madison at Quality CBD?
No, I guess not.
Yeah, Delta 8 and 9, THCP, pre-rolls, even bath balls and kombucha. They have everything you need.
I'm going to send them down to Quality CBD right now, 1222 Williamson Street in Madison.
Or find them online at qualitycbd.org.
To Chicago, Miss Maddie starts calling me.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has signed a disaster declaration.
23 counties across Texas due to damaging winds and heavy rainfall, including flash flooding and river flooding.
Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson on the impact.
The water rising in people's homes and our businesses, flooded underpasses, submerged vehicles, knocked out traffic signals.
That's on courtesy WFAA. Meantime, a drought disaster in Rhode Island. Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack has declared all 5 of the state's counties as primary natural disaster areas. In Michigan, a jury has convicted 2 men of conspiring to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. And 2 white Atlanta police officers will not face charges in the shooting death of a black man, Rashard Brooks. Ed Donahue has the story.
It happened 2 years ago during heightened tensions over the death of George Floyd.
Stop fighting! Stop fighting! You're gonna get tased! You're gonna get tased!
Brooks grabbed a taser from one of the officers and fled, firing it at Officer Garrett Rolfe as he ran. Rolfe fired his gun. Special Prosecutor Pete Skandalakis says this all evolved quickly.
Officers had no way of knowing or anticipating that within seconds of this encounter, both would be attacked by Brooks, and that Brooks would overpower them, take the taser from one of them.
Brooks' killing set off a new round of demonstrations against police brutality. Skandalakis says he doesn't believe race was a factor.
The officers were willing to give Mr. Brooks every benefit of the doubt. And, unfortunately, by his actions, this is what happened.
I'm Ed Donahue.
Worries are mounting in Ukraine ahead of tomorrow's Independence Day that Russia may mark it and the 6-month point in its invasion by intensifying attacks. The Biden administration plans to announce new aid tomorrow, roughly $3 billion to train and equip Ukrainian forces. Stocks closed lower on Wall Street, but losses were small. This is AP News.
We tried Dynovite nutritional supplement, and after a couple of weeks, we noticed a big difference. Our little Gizmo's coat was shinier, and there was a lot less scratching and shedding.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynovite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynovite.
Backyard grill-outs are better this summer with the Omaha Steaks All-American Assortment. Visit omahasteaks.com, enter Sizzle in the search bar, and fill your freezer with 16 mouth-watering entrees like butcher's cut filet mignons, pork chops, boneless chicken breasts, and more. Plus, 8 ultra-juicy Omaha Steaks burgers free. Go to omahasteaks.com, type Sizzle into the search bar for a special price on the All-American Assortment, and get 8 Omaha Steaks burgers free. That's omahasteaks.com.
Devil Radio 92.7 FM, covering all the malarkey you can handle.
This is Pat Slattery of Slattery's Automotive Service in Verona. Established in 1973, I've been servicing and repairing cars in the Madison community for nearly 50 years. You can trust me to tell you what your car really needs and fix it right the first time. Give me a call at 608-848-6123 to schedule an appointment today. Slattery's Automotive Service, your trusted choice for local service and repairs for all your automotive needs.
Devil Radio has been kicking ass, earning every listener, and providing our sponsors return on investment 3 years now on the Madison airwaves. And there has never been a better time than right now to advertise with us and join the Devil Radio community. Our audience is loyal and growing every day. Active listeners that don't flip. Wonder if your ad dollars are working? Devil Radio listeners will tell you it works. Ad production is included. Devil Radio will make it easy for you to start seeing return on your investment. Call today.
Hey, Darcy, I just saw the perfect house. Can you help me write an offer on it?
I'd be happy to, Brian. Did you see it at an open house?
No, I just called the sign and had the agent show it to me. I didn't want to bug you.
Right. How many times have you heard me say don't call the sign?
All of them.
You called the agent working for the seller, and once you see the property with that agent, I'm no longer free to write an offer on it.
So...
You need to hire us from the beginning, help you find the right home, negotiate on your behalf, and protect your interests all the way through the process, and it shouldn't cost you a dime.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Find them at solidarityrealty.com.
I'm so glad you're listening to Devil Radio. It makes me so happy. Boo.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Matnair with your headlines. Beginning in the fall of 2023, the UW system will implement the Wisconsin Tuition Promise. That covers the tuition at any of 12 universities within the system for in-state students coming from families that make $62,000 a year or less. The program modeled off of UW-Madison's Bucky's Tuition Promise. The new president of the system, Jay Rothman, says roughly 8,000 students will be eligible, with an initial price tag for the first year estimated around $14 million. The UW system is covering the cost for the pilot year and plans to request future funding for the program from the Republican-led Wisconsin legislature. In past budgets, Governor Evers had requested funding for a similar program, but it had been stripped out of the budget by GOP lawmakers. Partly cloudy today with a high 82, clear tonight, low 61. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM, WTTN, 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, rolling into the Tuesday happy hour. I'm going to kind of acknowledge our last fine guest, Dr. Harvey Kaye. Always great when Harvey comes round. You could be our guest in this big hour, 844-967-2789. Dom, we started the show. I acknowledged the fact that this is the 2-year anniversary of the beginning of the Kenosha unrest. And gubernatorial candidate Tim Michels, along with Brian Stile and others, went to the scene of the unrest. They went to Kenosha and made a big political event out of it. I'd like to share some of the reporting. Molly Beck, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. On the 2-year anniversary of Kenosha unrest after the Jacob Blake shooting, Tim Michels hits Tony Evers' response to the riots. And Tony has subsequently responded. We've got coverage also from WisPolitics.com. Republicans running for the highest state offices toured downtown Kenosha Tuesday to mark the second anniversary of the violence and destruction that plagued the southeastern Wisconsin city for days that summer, a centerpiece to their campaign against Democratic incumbents. Governor hopeful Tim Michels and Attorney General candidate Eric Toney met with U.S. Rep. Brian Stile, law enforcement officers, and Kenosha officials, and of course, Dom, criticized Governor Tony Evers for his response to the riots. Here is the statement. You can fix buildings, you could rebuild businesses, but I fear that I still heard in the people's voices today the concern that they have that this could happen again because they see no change in Madison. That's what November is all about, Michels told reporters following a roundtable discussion with law enforcement. Evers said Monday he has no regrets about how he handled the unrest in Kenosha in 2020. Here is the statement from Governor Evers, and I have another. Obviously, violence and the results that happened are not acceptable in any stretch of the way, but we worked with the leaders in Kenosha, and every time they asked us for something, even the very first day, we did exactly what they wanted us to do, Evers said in a campaign stop in West Allis. Evers said blaming him now is ridiculous. It's a dead issue. Obviously, we want Kenosha to recover and move to a better place. But at the end of the day, blaming me for that situation is just dead wrong. And it's politics as usual. Now, Dom, I'd like to jump over to one more quote from Tony Evers. This at WisPolitics.com. Evers also at an event called GOP gubernatorial candidate Tim Michels a liar for suggesting the Dem governor failed to provide support to Kenosha amid protests and riots in the summer of 2020. The bottom line is, it's a lie. That is the quote from Governor Tony Evers. The construction executive in a tweet of the video. Now, there's a video out there, Dom. Michels, ahead of the event, released a video on Twitter in which Evers says he would not change anything he did in response to the violence and looting in Kenosha after Jacob Blake Jr. We talked about him. The black man from Kenosha was shot by a white Kenosha police officer. Blake, who survived and is now paralyzed, was shot 2 years ago today. What was less than 3 months after George Floyd, a black man from Minnesota, was killed by a Minneapolis police officer, sparking nationwide protest and unrest. And the construction executive, again, we're talking about gubernatorial candidate in Wisconsin, Tim Michels, The construction executive in his tweet of the video blasted Evers. From COVID to Kenosha, Tony Evers has failed us. His instincts are terrible. His policies are even worse. Evers in Milwaukee fired back, calling Michael's statements stupid. He said more.
Yes.
Called him stupid.
I mean, stupid. Well, you know, it kind of rhymes. COVID to Kenosha. It's got the k. So they're going to stick with it regardless of how asinine it sounds or how factual their beef is. So let's get to the facts of it.
Wait. Before we do that, there's one more I think we got to bring forth. U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, because he's out there kind of on the, reading from the same script today.
Yeah, go ahead.
Quick statement from Rojo. The Kenosha riots should have ended after one night, but they didn't because Governor Tony Evers and Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes released incendiary statements before they had all the facts. They incited the rioters and refused to provide the type of manpower to quell the rioting. That, according to Rojo.
Well, and he knows something about incitement, doesn't he? This is a guy who
it was just a few seconds, man. Just a
couple of seconds. That was only a few seconds. I mean, what do you want me to do? It was only a couple of seconds. I was barely there. I'm barely involved in the coup attempt against this country.
Well, the math, and I know you've got some of this information because we've got a little PolitiFact on this. But the math, Tony Evers, the governor, authorized 125 National Guard troops the day after the shooting, doubled it to 250 the next day. Tuesday, August 25th, according to the governor's office, Evers spoke with Donald Trump on the afternoon of August 25th and declined the former president's offer to send federal agents from Homeland Security. Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 people, killing 2 of them that night. The next day, Evers increased the number of National Guard troops to 500 and accepted the Trump administration's offer to provide additional FBI and U.S. Marshal support, according to Evers' office. Critics contend that was inadequate. Inadequate, I tell you.
Less than 24 hours after the incident. Let's not forget. Let's talk about this incident for a moment, because I'm pretty sure on the 2-year anniversary of Blake getting shot that they did not, the Republicans down there today, acknowledge him. Right? Shot in the back, 7 times, unarmed? I believe he was unarmed. In the back, while the police officer was holding his shirt as a man was getting into his car, shot him 7 times in the back. This is after George Floyd. And so when unarmed black men are getting murdered by police, as we witnessed in Minnesota with the George Floyd case, yeah, people have some issues with that. And then you see some people who, take it too far and then start things on fire. Now there's folks out there that are, propaganda. They're out there, jumping in with the crowd. I remember a guy from Minnesota was actually like someone from Texas, some right winger from Texas, trying to instigate the crowd into this. You got to be careful. Those things happen. When you're in a crowd, when you're in a big crowd and there's emotions running high, especially in something like that. Yeah. I mean, all you need sometimes is a little spark. You got to remember to keep your cool. And sometimes people don't keep their cool. And sometimes stuff breaks and stuff gets burnt. Sometimes, guys come in from Minnesota and shoot people and then get away with it. But ultimately, this continual bitch about how Black Lives Matter and how people reacted is not being addressed by the Republicans whatsoever, because then they would have to acknowledge the unarmed shooting of black men as a consistent problem in this country. And as Blake's shooting and paralysis have shown, it continued here in the state of Wisconsin, and people were upset about it. Now, my understanding, the person that set the fires in Kenosha, convicted. Arson.
3 years.
3 years. Doing time. So justice prevails. But to have people like Johnson, people like Michaels, conservative callers say, well, he waited 3 days. No, he didn't. Governor Evers sent, again, according to PolitiFact, around 3:00 a.m. on August 24th, Kenosha Sheriff David Beth submitted a formal request to the state calling for support from the Wisconsin National Guard. Later that day at 3:05 p.m., less than 24 hours after Jacob Blake was shot while unarmed in the back 7 times, I would add to this isn't just a gun that just happened to go off. Evers authorized 125 members of the National Guard to support local law enforcement agencies. Neighboring jurisdictions had provided more than 100 law enforcement officers the night before, a presence that would continue. On August 25th, on August 25th at 2:33 p.m. The governor doubled the number of National Guard troops to 250, as Crudy mentioned. So he reacted. It didn't take days. It was less than 24 hours. It was a measured reaction. He responded to local authorities, and as things got more and more difficult, he sent more and more troops and ultimately accepted federal help from the Trump administration. So unless you're telling me that Governor Eder should have sent in the 101st Airborne immediately, I think he reacted as appropriately as he should have. And let's not forget that police officers are in this country shooting unarmed black men and getting away with it in most cases. So the problem that I have is, number one, the factual misinformation being presented by Republicans and conservatives is about Evers. You can say he only sent 125. He should have sent 500 in the first. Okay, that's something to say. But to say he did not react for 3 days is not factual. That is a lie, and that is stupid, as the governor said.
When do our conservative friends start letting the truth get in the way, Dom? The other statement made by U.S. Senator Ron Johnson is effectively the statements of Tony Evers incited the riot. So here are the quotes of Tony Evers on the day that Jacob Blake was shot. Tonight, I quote the governor, "Tonight, Jacob Blake was shot in the back multiple times in broad daylight in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Kathy and I join his family, friends, and neighbors in hoping earnestly that he will not succumb to his injuries. While we do not have all the details yet, what we know for certain is that this is not the first black man or person to have been shot or injured, mercilessly killed at the hands of individuals in law enforcement in our state or our country." More from Evers. "We stand with all those who have and continue to demand justice, equity, and accountability for black lives in our country. Lives like those of George Floyd, of Breonna Taylor, Tony Robinson, Dontre Hamilton, Ernest Lacey, Sylvie Smith, and we stand against excessive use of force and immediate escalation when engaging black Wisconsinites. I have said all along that although we must offer our sympathy, equally important is our action. In the coming days, we will demand just that of elected officials in our state who have failed to recognize the racism in our state and our country for far too long." Well, clearly, Tony Evers incited a riot and the vigilante shootings of Kyle Rittenhouse. All Tony's fault. It's all very clear from the statement he made.
Yeah, you can see how that happens.
Come back. More Devil's Advocates. We'll get to the phones next. 844-96-PARTY.
I think I did our country a great fire.
Fire, fury, and frankly, power.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
The Devil's Advocates.
I got a little email missive just a little bit ago. Can I share just a little?
Please.
Friend, Trump is one day away from taking the stage in Wisconsin, and we need you to help stop big tech from censoring his American First message. By taking our Trump rally poll, can we count on your prompt response? Here are your options. Yes, I stand with Trump, or no, I support censorship. Let's just say you feel a little pushed in the corner.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com.
They say singing can help you remember things, so here's some tips for parents out there during these tough times.
Number 1.
Make sure your kids wash their hands for 20 seconds after they've coughed or sneezed or been outside.
2.
Virtual play dates, social and physical distancing can help save lives.
3.
Tell them they're safe and show your love and pride. Yes, we'll get through this together. Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin uprising. The Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Going to the phones right now, you can be a part at 844-967-2789. Let's get to it. CJ, the good CJ from Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. Welcome, CJ. What do you got for us?
Hi, fellas. Good Tuesday to you.
Thank you. You too.
Since I spent most of over a decade in the military doing connecting the dots, try this for connecting the dots and corroborative evidence. If Lavrov was the first Russian ambassador into the White House ever, it takes about 5 years to build a satellite. 6 years. So within the last 4 days, I believe it was on the nightly news, Russia was successfully had successfully launched a spy satellite within a 3 to 5 minute window to get that close in the same exact orbit as our spy satellite. Now, if that's not special access programming, I will kiss somebody's white derriere.
So you're implying or stating, CJ, that the former president, Donald Trump, gave effectively U.S. secrets to a foreign adversary through their emissary Lavrov, the Russian ambassador. The guy he had down to the Oval Office. They had big yucks about firing Comey.
I would be searching for that document.
Well,
because there's a date timestamp on all the documents that are especially special access programs. And the only way you know the launch times and or the secret calls, if they've been updated by whoever launched the satellite, oh, hey, we got a 3 to 5 minute window. This is when we're launching. Here's your daytime group.
CJ, you make sort of a compelling argument.
Nobody worried about, man. It's just paper. It's just a paper crime, CJ. Don't worry about it. No big deal.
844-967-2789. Mark from the SAC. Welcome back, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, guys. And thanks to the good CJ. But a paper crime is still a paper crime, and Trump had no business taking any of those documents out of the White House. You can glean classified information from non-classified materials, because that's what they have analysts doing. I mean, pouring through this stuff to see if there's bits and pieces and clues of what's going on here. I mean, even personnel logs. I mean, that's might not be classified, but it's valuable information to our adversaries. I mean, it is just.
You recall the last conversation, Mark, we had, and we talked about the fact that Donald Trump effectively told NBC's Lester Holt that he fired the FBI director, James Comey, to relieve the pressure of the Russia thing, right? And then he had the two Sergeys down to the Oval Office, and we didn't learn that from the U.S. We learned that from Russia
TV
sources, right?
I mean, it's just ridiculous that they still defend this man, saying the Russia investigation was nothing. Well, it was something, because now we found out that Billy Barr, cooked the books, so to speak, and to take the pressure off of Donald Trump. I mean so Bill Barr is no hero, and that anything was taken is supposed to go back to never should have left the White House, and the man needs to be held account to account.
Mark, are you like me? Do you blame James Santel every time we mention the name Bill Barr? Because technically Santel worked for Bill Barr.
No, I do not blame Jim Santel.
You should. You really should.
It's just that, and the Republicans lying about Evers' response to Kenosha. He responded in less than 24 hours to the situation.
Yeah.
I mean and when he required more response, he gave more response. I mean, Dom pointed out these guys are just lying. You can't say, well, it's just a difference of opinion. No, it's just a lie, out and out lie, and Evers just needs to come on and say it's a lie.
Mark, excellent point. He did effectively.
He
came out
did,
and
yeah,
said,
absolutely.
That's a lie.
Good call, Mark, and well done, Governor Evers. Call him out for what it is. It's a lie.
Let me ask you, is it a fair criticism in that Jacob Blake, the shooting was on what, Sunday afternoon? The governor of the state of Wisconsin made a statement on Sunday afternoon, and by 3:05 p.m., if I understood the timeline, dispatched troops on Monday, the next day, within 24 hours of the initial shooting, but after the initial vandalism and some arson had already occurred. Should he, I think the accusation is, I think what all these Republicans are saying is, if he'd have made a preemptive show of force, if National Guard troops had been there after this incident, before any of the damage had happened, well, it'd be a different.
Well, but I mean, of course, it's a circular argument. You'd never have, if there's no reason to have the National Guard there, you wouldn't have the National Guard there. There needs to be an incident before the National Guard.
Well, the incident was the shooting of Jacob Blake. People were obviously reacting in real time. The governor reacted. He made a statement.
Yes. I mean, there's always going to be criticism, Crudy. I mean, I don't know. Yes, will Republicans continue to criticize? Yes. Do I think it was an adequate response? Sure. I mean, given what we knew in the timeline in which these things occurred, yes, you're going to have people that were always going to, Monday morning quarterback that thing. But I don't think just because an unarmed black man gets shot, you go send in the National Guard. I mean, if that would be the case, we'd have National Guards being deployed all over this country all the time.
Well,
so
within a couple months,
it's a bunk argument.
Within a couple months of what happened in Minneapolis, we got people listening right now, AM 950 listeners in Minneapolis. It was within a couple of months of the George Floyd. It wasn't like there was no sort of precedent if a black man gets killed unjustly. Now, obviously, Jacob Blake did not end up dead. And you could say it's just because he had a knife or he's stealing his girlfriend's car, whatever the case may be. I don't see it that way, but you could make that argument. But ultimately,
make the argument anyway, man. I mean, was it Tommy Thompson's fault when some jackass flipped over a cop car in La Crosse and burned it in the streets of La Crosse? or when some sports organization
whatsoever
wins the national championship and they go nuts and things get broken. I mean, give me a break. No. I don't buy it 1 minute. They're taking advantage of it, and what they're not doing is addressing why did everybody react the way they did? Why did Evers release that statement? Why were there protests in Kenosha? Why was that? It was the unarmed shooting of a black man. That's why. Why don't you address that, Republicans?
And perhaps you respond before there's violence. That's the criticism being leveled at Evers. Come back, more Devils.
This Russia thing.
Danny, this isn't Russia. Is this Russia? This isn't Russia, is it?
Nah.
I don't think so.
It is Russia.
Talk radio made for the 99%. Only on 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, Wisconsin's home for Devil Radio.
Dark Horse Art Bar is Madison's newest live music venue and art gallery. Check out these events at the Dark Horse. Sunday, August 21st is Lee Brains with Gloria Fires. Tuesday, August 23rd is Two Johns and a Nancy. Thursday, August 25th is Nate Ming and the Stolen Sea. And Friday, August 26th, it's Jason Vargas and the Apollos. Dark Horse Art Bar, 756 East Washington Avenue in downtown Madison. Online at darkhorsemadison.com.
Brian, what the heck are you doing?
I'm making a patio.
When I told you it was patio season, I didn't mean we had to make one of our own.
But I got all this grout all over me now.
Yeah, but I meant we need to go see Hawk at the all-new Jade Monkey on Cottage Grove Road. They've got an awesome patio, and it's the perfect place to stop for a cocktail after the show.
Jade Monkey has a patio? Why don't we go there?
Exactly. Now put down those power tools and let's go grab a drink.
That's all right. I was done anyway. Suck down drinks so we don't have to suck. Okay.
I'm Ben Thomas with an AP News Minute. President Biden is set to announce his long-delayed move to forgive up to $10,000 in federal student loans and to extend the pause on payments through January. That from 3 people familiar with the plan. The Internal Revenue Service is conducting a comprehensive review of safety at its facilities in response to increasing threats born of conspiracy theories. The jury in Michigan has convicted 2 men of conspiring to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Former U.S. Attorney Andrew Burge.
The verdict confirms that this plot was very serious, very dangerous, posed a threat not only to the governor personally and her family, but also to innocent bystanders and to basic social order.
And in Georgia, a specially appointed prosecutor says he will not pursue charges against 2 white Atlanta police officers who shot and killed a black man in June 2020. He says the officers faced a quickly evolving situation when Rashard Brooks lunged and grabbed one of their tasers during an arrest attempt. I'm Ben Thomas.
We tried Dynovite nutritional supplement, and after a couple of weeks, we noticed a big difference. Our little Gizmo's coat was shinier, and there was a lot less scratching and shedding.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynovite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynovite.
Backyard grill-outs are better this summer with the Omaha Steaks All-American Assortment. Visit omahasteaks.com, enter Sizzle in the search bar, and fill your freezer with 16 mouth-watering entrees like butcher's cut filet mignons, pork chops, boneless chicken breasts, and more. Plus 8 ultra-juicy Omaha Steaks burgers free. Go to omahasteaks.com, type Sizzle into the search bar for a special price on the All-American Assortment, and get 8 Omaha Steaks burgers free. That's omahasteaks.com. Keyword.
From Up North News, I'm Pat Kreitlow. Tuesday could serve as a textbook example of how the 2022 race for governor is being handled in Wisconsin. While Governor Tony Evers was releasing a plan to cut taxes and asking legislators to stop sitting on a $5 billion budget surplus, his challenger, Tim Michels, was in Kenosha, looking back at violent unrest from 2 years ago. A Democratic Assembly rep from Green Bay penned an open letter to her Republican state senator, taking issue with his opposition to ensuring that kids from lower income families don't go hungry while they're at school. She talked about it on our radio show. You can hear it weekday mornings from 8 to 11 by going to tunein.com or the TuneIn app and dialing up our flagship station, WXCO, in Wausau. And finally, there's still more than enough summer left to plan a road trip. We present one list of favorite roadway attractions and invite you to share some of your own. More at upnorthnewswi.com.
The Devil's Advocates. So relevant, they have 1 foot in tomorrow.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. The Tuesday edition, the 2-year anniversary of the unrest in Kenosha, and the occasion was marked, as our friend Pat Kreitlow pointed out, by gubernatorial candidate Tim Michels, Republican, going down there and basically blaming the current governor, Tony Evers, for all that ails the world, especially the violence that happened in Kenosha that night, the arson, the burning, the looting, and as you have pointed out, the false allegations leveled at the governor that he was not responsive, 1 iota, did nothing. Well, that's not true. He did, within 24 hours, order 125 troops. That became 250. That became 500. He declined Homeland Security from Trump. That was the night that Kyle Rittenhouse went on his vigilante shooting spree, but then eventually did accept Marshal and FBI assistance from the federal government as well. Now, earlier today, I believe, if I read the quote correctly, Tony Evers said, I have no regrets. There's no way I could have handled this differently. I know that the allegations could be leveled against Evers. Well, you could have been a little more preemptive. You could have, dispatched National Guard troops before there was violence, not after, not reactively to the violence. And of course, anything that happened thereafter, it's all Tony's fault. That's the way it's being played, right? But could Evers play it differently? Could Evers say, well, my only regret is we couldn't preemptively stop instigators from driving in from out of state and causing trouble and putting what was otherwise probably going to be a peaceful protest, much like the protest that happened in May in Madison that I was at, the Black Lives Matter protest. And at noon, they marched for George Floyd, and they marched for the kid that had died, Tony Robinson, in Madison. And they came together, and Brandy Grayson led that group very peacefully. And I watched her, and it was a very powerful day.
Yeah.
And by the end of the afternoon, I went home. Michael Johnson from the Boys and Girls Club, he was another guy there. He went home. But about 150, let's call them agitators, stuck around in looted businesses on State Street and kicked in windows. And there was an inadequate police response because they weren't expecting violence, otherwise peaceful protest. Well, as it turned out, the vast majority of those people were not Black Lives Matter protesters. They were people looking to break stuff. Same thing that kind of happened down in Kenosha, at least on the first night. The only regret that perhaps Tony Evers, and I'm not saying he regrets it, he says he doesn't. But if on the same day that he made the statement regarding the Jacob Blake shooting, if he'd have said, out of an abundance of caution, we're going to have National Guard troops out to observe the peaceful protest and make sure no outside agitators turn this into something bigger, which is what happened. Well, if I didn't do that, I might have a regret or two. Now, is he responsible for the dead people at the end of
Let me respond to that, because
Rittenhouse's
certainly
gun? No.
that could be the reaction for any executive branch member in any situation, anytime there's a protest anywhere, right? As far as I recall, some of the goings on in the Madison protesters are some of the college girls breaking stuff, right?
Yeah, kids from a couple of teenage girls from Wanakee in different places.
Come on, man. We've all been there, Crudy. We've talked about it. And some of it, usually it's having a good time and maybe taking too many mushrooms. And, God knows, never to the degree that, oh my God, the power of the state through the police officers or armed officers are shooting unarmed black men, a real reason to be upset, a real reason to protest instead of some football games or Coon Creek, for example. So, yeah, young people do dumb things. To your point, I think he gave an appropriate breath. There were local authorities on the ground. They did ask at 3 a.m, and by 3 p.m, that came through. So at 3 a.m, what was going to happen already happened. So unless, the locals didn't ask for that immediately, they asked for it at 3 a.m, and they got it the next day within 12 hours, within 24 hours of the action. So there's also the political side of too much show of force, man. That's also politically not great. Oh, something happened. Here's a thousand National Guard troops. Wait, what the hell is this? Man, I remember in La Crosse, we were just hanging out partying, and they brought in, riot police on horses and gear. And it was an escalation. Their presence was an escalation to people just hanging out. So you have to balance all these things out. And to balance it out, to let it breathe, to listen to local authorities, let them handle it, and then to eventually do the track and do the way Tony did it, I don't know, man. I have to think I'd do it about the same.
844-967-2789. Robert from West Dallas. Welcome, Robert. What do you got for us?
Hey, Robert.
Hey, I don't know if you guys have mentioned this already, but if we think about that timeline, that piece of garbage, Alex Jones, right? The Newtown shooting denier, the one that's being sued into oblivion, he also played a role in this. So it wasn't just January 6th he was involved with. He played a role in this. If you remember, there was a Facebook group that he was sponsoring and promoting, and these wingnuts actually wanted the governor to deputize them. So when they showed up with their AR-15, that they could pretend, cosplay that they were the sheriff or the police and, do what they did there. So, to act like they didn't have a role in stemming and creating the violence between him and Trump and his cohort there, they set a lot of this emotion in themselves. So I don't think we point that out enough that, yeah, there was violence, but a lot of it had to do with all of these people coming from out of town to protect property they didn't know.
Great point, Robert. Thank you for the call. And you're right. Sometimes we forget about what was the environment like? What were the agitations? What were the prodding, the poking? What was going on a national? What was going on the social media side of it? I think that's a great point, Robert. Thank you for bringing it up.
Here is what I found at the Chicago Tribune. After 2 straight nights of violent unrest, former alderman Kevin Mathewson, Mathewson, posted a call to arms on Facebook page of his fledgling militia group, Kenosha Guard, formed in the days after George Floyd was killed by police in Minneapolis. Bear with me, folks. The page boasted only 87 likes, but Mathewson got a wide response for his Tuesday post asking for patriots willing to take up arms and defend Kenosha from evil thugs. That was his posting. Within about 4 hours, some 1,000 people responded they were going to Kenosha. Another 4,000 said they were interested. Later in the day, Mathewson, an assault-style rifle visibly strapped around his chest, posted a 15-second clip of civilians gathered near the courthouse. That night, police say the civilian with an assault-style weapon shot and killed 2 men. That, of course, was Kyle Rittenhouse. Another, as armed vigilantes patrolled the street during yet another violent night of protest following the police shooting of Jacob Blake. Anyways, so there was a militia group that basically helped bring interest in people like Kyle Rittenhouse, although specifically Rittenhouse doesn't allege that he was inspired by that specific militia group.
844-967-2789. Well, here's a guy that we need to edify because he said some things that were apparently not accurate yesterday. CJ, yesterday you said, and we can pull the tape, but trust me when I tell you, that Governor Evers did not respond for 3 days. We've talked about it at length today. I'm sure you're listening because you always do. He responded within less than 24 hours. Do you apologize to the host of this fine show, our producers, our employees, and our audience for your misinformation, sir?
Kind of like the CNN journal.
All right, I'm going to try that one more time. Do you apologize to us and our audience for your misinformation, sir?
Yeah, okay. Let's speak more about it. Why don't you ask the 75 business owners on State Street that had their buildings damaged and destroyed?
Yes, and the person that did that, CJ, has been arrested and prosecuted and convicted of crime. So justice has prevailed.
Oh, really? And you guys have covered that.
I was specifically there that day, CJ.
You guys aren't even honest. And I listened to that previous.
All right, go ahead, Curdy, because now he's talking trash. And when you were specifically there, what day?
I was specifically there the May day where there was the Black Lives Matter protest, the march to acknowledge George Floyd, led by Brandy Grayson. And it was a peaceful movement, and the event basically broke up. And then there were some young agitators that stuck around and kicked in windows that had little or nothing, as near as I can tell, to do with the Black Lives Matter protest. And in fact, the entire tone of the day was anything except violent until about dusk. Until it wasn't even dusk. It was like 5:30. It was shocking to me because this otherwise peaceful event, I'm watching young white girls from Wanakee kick in like the door at Goodman's Jewelers.
I know, dude.
And I watched a friend of mine, Alan Robinson, go out there and put himself and his little French dog, Coco, beautiful little doggy, got in the way and protected people's property. And I thought to myself, this man has character. You know, he lives in this neighborhood. He didn't want to see the destruction in his neighborhood. Well, the people didn't want to see the destruction in Kenosha either. But you know what? Nowhere. And I was out there at some of these events, and I've seen some violent events, and nowhere amongst the rioters was Tony Evers or Mandela Barnes. And I don't think the language, the statement issued by Tony Evers, contrary to Rojo's assessment, there was nothing inciting about Tony Evers' statement. Tony Evers basically acknowledged that sometimes black people get shot by the cops and people react to it.
That was to Rojo and to the right and to the hard Trumpsters. That is an incitable comment, Curdy, at least to them. To them. You can't say that. That's not true. Or do you really want to say that? Because we shouldn't talk like that. We shouldn't talk about it. Either way, it's insightful to them. Because that's a hard thing to swallow. And if I also may, so what comes out of this kind of activity, right? The unfortunate phrasing of defund the police. Defund the police, as some people have spoke about in reference to the unarmed shooting of black men and by police in this country. And the fact that sometimes, many times, justice does not prevail in those cases. And now, what do we see from the Trumpsters? Well, their guy's got like super secret documents that he's not supposed to have and have been negotiating with over a year to get back. And they went and finally got them back. And that is the crime against humanity, to defund the FBI. I'm sorry, but it's so not even close to the same universe. And for anybody to bring it up and act like, oh, this is, two sides of the same coin, you're just wrong. And I find it very offensive. Thank you.
Are you hangry, man? You need to.
Oh, man, it's just, you're kidding me.
Wisco Paul, welcome to the show. What do you got for us?
Hey, Paulie.
Hey, good afternoon, Devils. I don't mind CJ calling in, but it could be a little more civilized and let other people speak and try to get his facts straight. My understanding is, now I might not have my facts straight, but my understanding is one of them, that Sue Brooks, was a police officer's daughter and a friend, so, but you might want to check that. What you were talking about there, basically you stole my thunder. It's not the same. Trump and Black Lives Matter. And CJ, just be cool when you call in, for goodness sakes. Thanks for taking my call, Devils.
Thank you, Paulie. Appreciate it, man.
Cool is a state of mind, and CJ just ain't going to get there. I don't think he can get there from here. It's a distance, a chasm. We got a break coming up, don't we?
Yes, we do. Can't take any more calls, but we will take more on the other side of this very short commercial break at 844-967-2789. The Republicans have been trying to compare, what happened, the insurrection at the Capitol to Black Lives Matter protests, and it's so not the same thing whatsoever. There was a big Black Lives Matter protest,
the commonality is
in Washington, D.C. That's when Trump went and hid in the little private room because he was scared of the scary black people, right? And nothing happened.
You didn't leave me any time to tell you what the common thread is. You'll have to stick around. More Devil's Advocates.
I figure we have 42 minutes until the end of civilization as we know it.
Holy mackerel, folks. Let's get to work.
To some, a baby's babbling doesn't mean much, but it does. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Learn more at autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
The plaintiff, Donald J. Trump, hereby serves his suit against the defendants, Hillary Clinton and her cohorts, orchestrated an unthinkable plot, one that shocks the conscience and is an affront to the nation's democracy. This week on Fox. You know what I mean? Like you're throwing a few too many adverbs and adjectives in this sentence.
One man, one mission Donald Trump gets made fun of. This is Watergate 2.
Making radio great again.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstead of the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I'm excited to announce our new beer, AOC IPA. This IPA pays homage to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a champion of the progressive movement. AOC IPA is now available in stores throughout Wisconsin. Check our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to see which stores in your area are carrying it.
You love them enough to do anything for them.
Dad, can we make 200 cookies for my bake sale tomorrow?
Let's do this. Including checking nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Charged, never convicted. The Devil's Advocates.
I got the feeling
some.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. The last segment of the day. If you got something to say, hit us up right now. 844-967-2789. Crudy, I forget who the caller was, but I did want to double check it. Media Matters reported Alex Jones encouraged vigilante violence in the days before gunmen killed Kenosha protesters. You can find this from August of 28th of 2020 at Media Matters. So yes, this was a national discussion, and Alex Jones did wade into this.
Last time we saw Alex Jones, he was wading into the Westboro Baptist Church trying to pick a fight, wasn't he?
Well, I was too, but that's beside the point. Don't make me and Alex Jones be on the same side of anything, man.
You look like him. There's a little similarity.
No, yeah.
844-967-2789. Our pal Dana from La Crosse up in God's country. How you
Afternoon,
doing,
Devils.
Dana?
Hey, Dana.
Hey, I'm doing well. How about yourself? What a beautiful
Good,
day.
man. Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, CJ, here's the thing. You cannot have a legitimate discussion with people about these type of topics if you're not informed. And I spent a lot of years monitoring the right wing and their vernaculars, their explanations, their logic, and it's never there. They're wrong about everything. They have to rewrite history. They obfuscate. You can show them documents. You can show them historical fact, quotes, anything that proves, what regular folks are trying to show them. But they'll just, it's fake. Everything's fake. And brother, you're going to have a long life ahead of you if everything from here out, the remainder of your life, that you don't like is fake. You best come back down to earth, son.
That's
all I got, guys.
Those bridge out
Thanks,
signs, Dina. Fake sign. I'd go for it. I wouldn't believe those street signs. They're always trying to lie to you, Trumpsters. Keep driving. 844-967-2789. Pizza Box. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Michael.
Hey, not too bad. I went to Kenosha for the march for justice for Jacob Blake and his family, and a lot of other families that have gone through the same thing. And I mean, there were hundreds of us, literally. There was no violence. There was no call for violence. There never is when the families are out there. You ever notice families are saying, we want justice. We don't want any, kind of reaction, right? Then do you remember the police, pushing down that old guy and cracking his skull and kicking women and pulling their hair and stuff and pushing people and bowling them over? People like CJ don't remember that, or they just can't accept that. And the only killing that went on through that whole summer was white guys killing white guys. That's another fact that people just can't grasp onto. But you guys got to learn how to handle wrongy righty from now on. See?
Pizza Box, sorry, man. You got a little tick in your phone line there. 844-967-2789. I suspect it might be NSA, Dom.
They're listening. They're listening in. We appreciate the call, Mike. We got some more on the line here, Evan. We have Drew from Lake Mills, Wisconsin. Welcome, Drew. What do you got for us?
Hey, Drew.
Hey, everybody. So it's been a while since I've called in, but I just want to remind everybody that, and you guys too, that this CJ character is living rent free in your heads right now.
Don't let it fool you, Drew. I'm totally fine with it.
With Dom's short-term memory, there's nothing living in his head.
Right.
But my question is, right? My question is, you allow different points of view to call in and say what they want to say, and when they start becoming fringe-like, you're like, that's enough. Goodbye, right? Why won't Vicky McKenna take my phone calls and put me on the air?
She'd take Dom's phone call.
Yeah, you know it, baby.
But only late at night, Drew.
But there is absolutely no dissent in their ranks. It's either you are for this and you're going to spout off everything that is maybe fake, maybe true, who knows at this point. But there's no accountability. There's nobody pushing back, and I wonder why that is.
Drew, every so often, I listen and call in to Righty Whitey Talk Radio, just to stir the pot a little bit. And I don't think I've ever called Vicky show because, we're preparing to do the greatest radio show ever when Icky Vicky's on. But I've called into Dan O'Donnell a couple of times, stirred his pot. It's funny because, Drew, I realize we just answered your call fairly quickly after it was screened, in deference to the fact that we're nearing the end of the show. And if you'd like to sneak a call in, you better dial.
We'll probably get you in, right?
967-2789, maybe. But I know I called Dan O'Donnell one day. I had to wait like 8 seconds. I was on before I had said my name to the screener. Hey, it's Mike on a Careful. And then I think from Evermore, we can see people's names and we recognize where you're calling from. So eventually,
right, the technology, we have it. You can see caller ID, you can see your names, we can tell you if you're not using the right name.
But anyways, I think that my name has been blackballed from Whitey Talk Radio forever. I suspect forever. Unless we go on and reset their computers and clear out their saved messages, all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't work, George. We know who you are as well. Is he still trolling us, Evan? I don't ever read the text anymore.
Nah, man, he's moved on.
Has he died? Do you think he's moved on?
Goodness.
Buried under the daisies?
But I would suggest, I don't know, Drew, I like, I have we did have a conversation with CJ at one of our events, and he's a gregarious, funny, absurd kind of fellow. And we had non-FCC compliant discussions at a bar, and it was quite enjoyable, especially because I consider myself the winner of those conversations. But generally speaking, I don't know what the reason is, man. I don't know why someone would stand up and say, I believe, the sky is red. And then if anyone that doesn't believe that calls up and challenges that assertion, all of a sudden you're just not going to take their call. So that to me is kind of, it's not the point of call and talk radio, man. The point is to have discussion. And if we can, and I've gotten some grief, and when Ron Johnson came on the show, we get grief, and we take CJ's calls and we get grief, but that's fine. I mean, a little bit of that, but notice we haven't had Ron Johnson, and he's kind of getting his ass kicked right now, because when you come on this fine show, we can humanize you a little bit, regardless of how atrocious your politics might be. But I'm wondering if there is an insecurity with some of the other hosts who don't quite have, the volume of knowledge and experience and miles that Crudy and I do, especially combined. So maybe, Drew, the short answer is they're scared.
Well, that was like 3 minutes too long for a short answer. Thank you to our fine guest, Dr. Harvey Kaye. Appreciate you coming around, Harvey. Tomorrow on the big show, I believe we got Carrie Pennybaker, right?
Yes, sir. 4:30.
Awesome. So yeah. Look forward to Thursday, Domless Thursday, but back on Friday. It's summer, so Dom takes a lot of days.
I'll be back.
See you on the radio tomorrow. Me and you as well, Sylvia.
Yeah, I'll be here.
I will fight you. That's no lie.
Those are fucking fighting words.